y'all, and welcome to Benevolence, where kindness matters and all are welcome to the table. I'm your host, Diaz. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you for supporting me on this Benevolence podcast. I pray that as you tune in every week, you are empowered, blessed, and encouraged to be the best version of yourself. You are tuning into episode 6. Let's talk about sex. This is a Q&A on sex and relationships. On this episode, we are going to get down and dirty and answer all of your questions in regards to sex and relationships. And I have a very special guest joining me at the table today. He's been on this table before. He's the love of my life, my husband and best friend, Anthony Diaz. Say hello, babe.
What's going on, guys? She got me again for another episode. I've been trying to dodge her all this time, but I made it. Season 3.
Yes. Thank you, babe. I think that there are so many questions, in regards to boundaries, purity, relationships, marriage, and of course, sex, that I was like, I can't do this alone. I have to bring you on so that you can give your input as well. So
yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. And I will tell you, I'll be honest with y'all. When she first told me about this and she gave me the idea, I'm like, baby, sure you want to talk about this? Y'all already know I'm not much of a talker. And, with my background, we don't express, our feelings a lot. My family's just not that type of people that express our feelings. So to do this, I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'll try to do my best sharing, my experience, my thoughts, and hopefully you guys will enjoy.
Yes. Thank you, babe. And it's funny because Anthony has kept asking me if I was going to change the subject of the episode until the minute before we started recording. So yeah, he's definitely stepping out of his comfort zone here. But for those of us that have been in a relationship, or have never been in a relationship, or they're currently in one, or they just want to get some tips and tricks, or whatever the case may be, this is definitely the episode that you want to tune into. So we all know that after the beginning of stages of getting to know each other, it's all puppy love. It's all, you're just in love, and all you do is just ponder about your significant other, and just nothing can ruin your day and all of that. But then once that starts to dissolve, you start to see your significant other in a deeper way. And this is in a sexual way. Mm-hmm. And there are some couples that quickly start off this way. And unfortunately, it can ruin the meaning of the relationship overall. And as Christians, we are encouraged to save sex until marriage. But to be honest, it's tough. It's really tough. Yep. And especially those that have been sexually active in the past. You want to make sure that you honor your significant other. But we're going to get into that later on. To be honest, it's kind of a taboo topic. This is something that doesn't get spoken about in the church or amongst Christians and things like that, So I'm glad we're talking about it today. But, we're trained to think that without sex, we are unable to have healthy relationships. But I want to let you know today that you are able to have a very, very healthy relationship without sex, especially for those that are not married. It's possible. Some people just don't know where to start. So let's go ahead and get right to it, babe. So let's talk about really quickly boundaries. Boundaries is a very, very important topic in regard to relationships, especially as Christians, because we have to set limits so that we don't fall into sin. And for you, if you've never heard of the Christian jargon of falling into sin, it's basically having sex. You know what I mean? We don't want to fall into temptation. We don't want to fall into sexual sin. Because as Christians, we're told that we have to save ourselves till marriage. So what are some boundaries that someone could establish to have a healthy relationship with their significant other?
Well, I think that's a great question to start off with. You start off by talking about your boundaries with your, significant other, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever it may be. I will start off with some simple ones. I would say no hanging out late at night. So when I say that, it's not to say, okay, it's 8 o'clock, we can't hang out late at night. No, I'm talking about like those late night hours where, like nothing's really happening outside anymore. Like, and y'all should be back at your houses. And
I'd say nothing good happens after 9 o'clock, 9 or 10. Like, I think you're pushing it if you are alone and that, like, you're out that late with your significant other.
Yeah, and some of y'all might think, like, well, we could be coming out of a movie or we could just be hanging out, but why can't you just hang out, like, late in the afternoon, like 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock, like in those times.
Yeah, for sure.
Don't try to leave it till like, you want to meet up at 10 o'clock? You're looking for some bad stuff, when you're doing that.
That is definitely not a good idea. Anything else? What other types of boundaries?
I would say, like, if you guys are together, you're in a car, I would say stay in lighted areas. If you know what I would mean by that. Like, don't try to find, like, your spots, like, to make out. If we're just being upfront, like,
yeah, we're being real. We're being real.
And I'm talking to you from experience. Like, some of y'all might have, like, a couple, 2-3 spots that of in the back of your mind. Like, if I wanted to, just, make out or something, this is my spot. No. Stay in lighted areas.
Stay in lighted. But I feel like, to be honest, I feel like you shouldn't even be in the car with your significant other if you are your mind is racing and your hormones are raging. I feel like you shouldn't even,
like, if you can't control yourself.
Like, if you can't, because there's people but like the majority of people cannot control themselves. Like for you to control yourself, it's because, I don't know, you have the Holy Ghost, like, consuming. Because let's be real, as Christians, you gotta, the only way that you can possibly, like, resist is if you are, like, connected, and I'm I don't know, this is just...
And even if that might be the case, like, okay, one of you guys are probably like that. I doubt both of you guys are like that.
At the same time, It's tough. Boundaries is tough. And I feel like even being alone in a car, like, hands,
you should just, that was one of my points.
Okay,
hands to yourself.
Yes. Yes. Keep your hands to yourself. I remember back in a church in Miami, we had the 6-inch rule. So if we were dating somebody, we had to be like 6 inches away from that person. We couldn't, like, be, like, all up on each other.
So you got to give those, like, church hugs where you, like...
Church hugs, side hugs.
Side hugs.
Side church hugs.
Yeah, so the bodies aren't touching.
No, because you can't be having pelvic to pelvic bone. None of that, because...
You're trying to give those good hugs. Like, how you doing today?
No. That was not allowed. It had to be side hugs and 6 inches. And I think the only thing you could have done was just hold hands. But it couldn't be, like craziness. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess to finish it off, I would just say, basically talking about those boundaries together beforehand, like, not just thinking of and doing these things, as you're going through it. No, you guys got to talk about it, so you guys can both be on the same page.
That's good. That's really good. In regards to purity, because I think boundaries is its own, like, section, and I think we covered basically that. But in regards to purity, one of the questions from one of our listeners was, how do I let my non-Christian friends or the lukewarm Christian, how do I let them know that I want to remain pure till marriage? Because, okay, like, for example, non-Christian people, if you have just some friends who just aren't believers, they're not going to understand that. They're not going to understand that you want to remain pure. And then there's many times where you can be dating or you can be interested in someone who's kind of, not all in. You know what I mean? They believe in God, but they don't understand those concepts of staying pure, or I don't know, they might just be in a whole nother level. So how can you tell them, or how can you inform them that you want to remain pure till marriage?
All right. What I would say or recommend is in regards to non-Christian friends or lukewarm friends, like, don't be shy about what your beliefs are. Like, if you stand for something, like, stand for it.
Exactly.
And that goes a long way, because then people are going to wonder, like, man, like, why is this person this way? And you never know, just by you standing for what you believe in could be the very light that someone in the dark needs to see.
Absolutely. That's really good, because, I always, and this is not in regard to relationships or sex or anything, but like, we have to let our lives be the testimony. Okay, we're not going around passing out tracts and evangelizing to every person we come in contact with, but we have to set the example. And I feel like, I agree, if you set the example and you stick to it, I think that will eventually, rub off. And you may be surprised, your non-Christian friends, or those that need a stronger relationship in God, they might be influenced. Wow, if they can do it, I can do it too. So I think that's definitely, it's smart.
Yeah. And in regards to like an actual relationship with a non-Christian or a lukewarm, person, I would say you want to be very careful with that. I know when I first think of this question, it brought me to the verse in 2 Corinthians 6:14. And it says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what partnership has righteousness with lawlessness? Or what fellowship has light with darkness?"
Yep.
Now, so you might read that or hear it and think, man, I could be pretty cruel. Is it telling me I just can't hang out with someone who's non-Christian? You may take it that way, but there's a reason why God tells us to not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Because it's a heavy burden. It's a heavy burden. So if you're dating someone who's not Christian, that will be something I wouldn't recommend, because you guys will have different beliefs. You guys aren't going to be going towards the same direction. You're going to be going one way, and the other person is going to be going another way.
Yeah, I agree. I always give the analogy of like the chair, like someone standing up on a chair and someone on the ground, and then it's harder to pull that person up on your chair, but the person at the bottom can easily pull you down.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
So it's easier to pull somebody down. It's faster. It's quicker. Than actually pulling somebody up.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. So I think it applies to everything, and definitely applies to relationships. So moving on, the next question is, I wanted to stay pure, but I've sinned. Does God still accept or love me? And how do I get back on track? How do I get back on track with zealous of? Oh, okay. Let's do this again. Hold on. So moving on, the next question is, I wanted to stay pure, but I've sinned. Does God still accept or love me? And how do I get back on track with celibacy?
Okay. Of course, I'm going to say, God's still going to love you.
For sure.
You think of one of the most popular verses, John 3:16, said, "For God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son." And the word that's so important in that is, for God so loved the world. So the world meaning the good people, the bad people.
Yes.
When Jesus died, He died for all of us. It wasn't just for some of us. So I would say, yes, God still loves you. But that doesn't mean that you can take for granted His love. You could take for granted His grace, because one thing that you have to understand is, by having sex before marriage, is you're hurting God, but you're hurting yourself more than you're hurting God. God wants to see you pure, because now the things that you're going to learn, the things that you're going to experience by doing such things, you're going to bring those baggages into the next marriage, or into the relationship that God has, for you with that specific spouse that you might have in the future. So, it's very important to, stay faithful, stay pure in God.
Amen. I just finished reading the book of Romans, and Paul, he clearly states, and he talks about how the grace of God is just, it's just overflowing.
Yeah.
But do not take advantage of the grace of God.
Yeah.
He says it. He's like, so does that mean that we keep sinning because God's grace is so big? He's like, no way. So I would highly recommend reading the book of Romans. It's pretty interesting. And then also keep in mind that, the Bible says that even though we are as red as crimson, he will make us white as snow. So just ask for forgiveness, ask God, to purify you,
Yeah.
The psalmist said, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. So just pray and ask God to cleanse and heal you. I'll be honest. You and I came into this marriage, having experience,
Yep.
we were experienced from prior relationships. So it was difficult. It was difficult for us to stay pure. It was possible, and we achieved it. And thank God for that. Glory to God. But it was hard.
Yes,
it was very, very hard. Yes. It was very hard. Just knowing that, your spouse, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, they're experienced, it's just, that's a whole nother level. That's a whole nother, ballpark, but it's possible. It's possible to remain pure within a Christian, healthy relationship. And, getting back on track with celibacy, just do it. Just do it. You know what I mean? Just get back to it, and pray to God, ask for forgiveness, and continue on from there, Yeah,
and I think it's extremely important to continue seeking God because every day is a battle. Jesus had to pick up your cross daily.
Yes.
So that means like every day you got to wake up knowing, all right, I'm going to be battling with my flesh. I'm going to be battling with temptations. So it's so important to just stay in communion with God, to keep feeding your soul, keep feeding your spirit, not with stuff from social media, or not from things that are going to discourage you, but things that are going to bring you closer to God and edify you.
For sure. That's good, babe. The next question, it says, if we are inexperienced, how do we become knowledgeable or informed without experiencing? And this is pretty much an advice for two people who are virgins and they're going to get married and might be nervous for the first time.
It's funny because you asked that question, and like one of the things I thought of was like, okay, you could ask someone, but then I'm like, okay, who can you ask? And I'm like, oh, you can ask your parents. But then I'm like, ew, that's nasty.
You really want to ask your parents?
You didn't even want to think of that. Like,
Mom, I'm about to have my sex for the first time now. What can you... like, that is just, can't.
Yeah, that's just going to go down the wrong road.
Yes. And your parents are going to...
Horrible images. Yeah, let's leave that at that. And then, so maybe asking... someone else that you're comfortable with.
Yes.
Someone that you respect,
yes.
In a marriage, in a successful marriage, and ask some questions. It's important what we're doing here, and that's why, I applaud you, babe, because one thing that I appreciate about your podcast is that you're making it more comfortable to speak about what's uncomfortable. I didn't even write that. That just came off the tongue, and that was
That's
so good.
awesome. You gotta write that down.
That's good stuff right there. Yeah, so what we're doing here, we're talking about stuff that no one else really talks about, and but it's important to do so. That way, you can gain that experience.
Exactly. So find someone you trust. Find someone who's in a successful relationship, and pastors, leaders. Yeah, like I can. A pastor just comes to my head of like someone who I can go to and be like, or you probably can go to, but yeah, the pastors are there to pastor you, and it might be a little uncomfortable, but I'm sure they'll give you the best advice.
Yeah, I want to add, especially like, I would say basically, it's not like the movies. It's not what you see on TV, or if you've been watching stuff, bad stuff online, if you know what I'm talking about, it's nothing like that. Like, you can't go to that stuff to teach you about what God gave us as a gift. So, look into the Word, see what the Bible talks about, sex. Especially if you're virgins and you guys are going through it together. And the best thing about it, if you guys were both virgins, is that you guys can take your time, like go through the experience and learn each other, like as you go through it together.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay. So the next question is, my boyfriend and I are inexperienced, but I've sent naked photos of myself to my boyfriend and vice versa. Are we in the wrong?
I feel like whoever... I'm not going to... I just feel like you know when you're in the wrong.
You know when you're in the wrong. Absolutely.
Like, God places in us, this consciousness. And
conviction.
This conviction. And through it, like, one thing that I picture is, like, if you've seen, like, those old commercials or even in some old TV shows, you'll see, like, that good angel and then the bad angel.
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what we go through, like, on a daily basis. So it's extremely important to listen to that good side of you. And when you know you're about to do something wrong, like, you feel it. Like, don't do it.
Don't do it, people. Don't do it. Because, look, you're basically just looking for approval and affirmation through sex texts. And it doesn't edify your life whatsoever. You'll feel the need to, like, do it more and more every day. It becomes addicting. And then eventually it's going to backfire. Like, just imagine, God forbid, maybe that person wasn't the right one for you.
Exactly.
They have all of your pictures. They have your body exposed on their phone and vice versa. Don't put yourself in a vulnerable situation where, I don't know, anything could happen. Anything can happen. Babe, I remember when we were dating, remember when I kind of established to you that I was like, I am not that girl. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do remember.
Yo.
It was like right from the beginning.
Right from the
Okay.
beginning. Yo. And the funny thing is, like, when we met, obviously, the way that we met was we laid all our cards on the table on the first date.
Yep.
On the first date.
We weren't playing no games.
We were not playing no games. We had been hurt before, and we knew that we were looking towards marriage, and we didn't want to play, so we wanted to make sure that we were both on the right page, on the same page. And the funny thing is, I remember that day where I just laid it out and says, I don't do that stuff.
Yep.
So if you thought, which you didn't, but you know what I mean? Like, if you thought, I'm not that girl. And I'm sure that you appreciated that from me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if that's not how you roll, cut it immediately, and just don't do it. Don't do it, because eventually it'll backfire for sure. Do you have something to say? Yeah,
I mean, I will say, to the ladies, like, you got to look at your bodies, like the word says, our bodies are a temple to God, and look at your body like treasure. Like, if you're giving away that treasure, that's like, you don't want to make it so easy for that person, that man. Like, no, you want that man to deserve you. You want that man to deserve your body. If he can't make it to marriage, then that's his loss. Then you move on to the next one, the right one. Yeah, that's good. What was I gonna say? I completely forgot. Completely forgot. Oh, okay, I remember. I know this is kind of crazy, but, like, if you had children, would you want your children doing that type of stuff behind your back? Yeah. I think about Victoria. I'm like, oh, Jesus, help me. She ain't having no phone. She ain't having nothing. Poor girl. Jesus, no. You know what I mean? Because the Lord's going to come by then. Yes, the Lord's... Jesus, please. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is, like, think about your kids. Would you want your kids sending naked photos of themselves to other people? Well, if you don't want that to happen, then don't do it. You know what I mean? I don't know. Just to kind of, like, disturb your brain. You know what I mean? Yeah. All right. This is not on our list, babe, but I think this is something that I think we should talk about. I feel that we should at least briefly hit on pornography and masturbation, because this is not, like, I remember it maybe 10 years ago was mentioned somewhere, in the church, don't do it, it's bad for you. But now, like, I haven't heard about it. And I know that that's not a question that was sent to me from the listeners, but I kind of want to talk about it briefly, because I would like to briefly just talk about how pornography and masturbation is, like, literally a bondage. Like, it's
it's something that binds you. It bounds. It's like a chain.
Yeah.
You know? And I know that there are a lot of people who, and we're going to be real, who are in relationships and they look to pornography or they look to masturbation to relieve the sexual tensions that they feel in, you know, of their spouse, you know, or not their spouse, but their girlfriend or boyfriend, you know, because they're trying to remain pure, but, you know, the sexual tension of seeing them throughout that day, you know, you feel you need a release, so they go and they look at porn, you know, and then they include that with masturbation. So just out of the air, what is the best way to avoid doing that? And what does the Bible say? And I know we don't have time to go into a verse right now, but obviously that's something that shouldn't be done at all.
I mean, I would just say that, you know, this is something that you got to be extremely, like, diligent in guarding your heart, guarding your eyes, what you take in, what you consume. Like I've watched that stuff. Yeah. I've been addicted to that stuff. And it clouds your mind. It clouds the way you think, the way you think of, you know, in my perspective, what you think of a girl or a woman. Like, yes. And what you got to keep in mind is that this stuff is not real. Like, and this stuff is what the enemy uses to enter into our hearts. Absolutely. And to destroy marriages and destroy families. So, like you really got to look at this like this is a battle. This is war. Like, the enemy's literally trying to keep you chained as, you know, you're into pornography and all this stuff. So, like, and it's something that's, I'm sure, like, many people are going through. Yeah. So it's, you know, it's serious. And, like, I will say, like, you definitely have to, like, open up, you know, like, if you feel like this is something that, you know, you can't, you know, get away from, like, seek help, you know, like.
Absolutely. And this doesn't only happen to men. This happens to women too. You know, I've watched pornography in my single days and it was addicting. It was addicting and those images do not leave your head. Those images do not leave your head at all. And you have to, you know, you have to free yourself. You have to not put yourself in a situation where you are alone and you have a laptop or you have a phone. You know, if you feel that you are being tempted or being pushed to it, you know, you have to put yourself in that position. If you need to take the computer out into the living room, go ahead and do it. And these are practical things that I'm thinking about.
It's almost like those same boundaries that we were kind of talking about.
Absolutely.
With yourself.
Yes. If, you know, you're going to have set boundaries with your girlfriend or boyfriend, you have to set boundaries with yourself. If you know that you don't have that self-control, you have to make it happen. You have to remove yourself from the situations. You just have to, because it really is a spirit. It's a bondage, you know, and it can ruin your life. Like you said, it can ruin marriages and relationships, and you just don't want to go there. You don't want to go there. So, fast, pray, seek God, because He will give you the strength to endure one of these hard temptations that comes with relationships overall, especially before marriage. So that was actually something that I wanted to talk about, because that's something that's not really mentioned within.
We're putting it all out.
We're putting it all out on the table, and I hope you guys appreciate it. So let's get into the nitty gritty. And the following questions I have are in regard to sex. And it's in regard to marriages. Okay. So these are actual questions, from married, couples, and they're not that many, but, I feel like this is important. So even if this doesn't even pertain to you because you're not married or whatnot, I think this is like some really good advice. It will pertain to you. It will pertain to you at some point. So just take a listen and just, take it all in. So the first question is, my husband, I'm keep it as general as possible. Okay. My husband or wife likes to have more sex than me. How do we talk about this?
Okay, my perspective, if you can imagine which side I'm on, I would say submit yourself.
You know, let's just be honest. As women, especially women who have given birth. The sex drive, and I'm sorry for all of my listeners out there, but the sex drive decreases significantly.
Maybe depending on the person. Maybe.
It may depend on the person, but studies do show that the sex drive does decrease.
Okay.
You know? So it's hard. It's hard. It's hard, you know? And then if you have busy lives and you're working hard and you're going to school, it's really, really hard to give. Oh my God. If only you guys can see what I'm looking at right now. Because Anthony is looking at me with this face. Jeez Louise. You're putting us on blast. But anyway, I definitely can fall into the category where I'd rather not have that much sex, to be honest. But I know that it's something that is needed within the marriage. So we do. It's funny because we like schedule it. But we kind of have to because we have a daughter with us, you know, so we can't just
we gotta take advantage when the parents or grandparents are picking that baby.
Yeah, so
sorry to put that.
Mom,
to
if you're listening,
parents,
I'm sorry, but that's what we gotta do. We gotta do. If you want another kid, if you want another grandkid, you know we gotta do. We gotta do. But anyways, coming back to this question, how can you? How do we talk about this? So I guess we're gonna have to talk about it. So if there's a husband or wife that's asking, you know, how my husband or my wife wants more sex, how can we talk about it within the marriage?
I mean, I would say like literally talking about it. Being open to, you know, what the person wants, you know, maybe compromising, like
being
if you
just
have to
willing.
schedule it out, like you got to do it, but
sex is needed. Sex is needed.
And
it's
I think,
needed.
You know, you have to look at it in the perspective that it is an act of love. You know,
exactly. It's a gift from God for marriages.
Yeah.
So take advantage of it, people.
I love gifts.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I do too, but you know, lives can get crazy, but yes, you have to speak to your husband, speak to your wife, be open with them and try to come with an agreement of how you want to deal with, you know, sex overall. When do you want to have it and things like that. And I'm sure that you guys will figure it out, but communication is key for sure.
Yep.
The next question is, there are a lot of attractive girls at my job. How can I deal with this and respect my wife?
Well, I would say, okay, there could be attractive girls, you know,
there's attractive people everywhere.
Yeah, everywhere. In your job setting. I would say it's so important to make sure you're not flirting.
Yes.
Like you can't play with, you're playing with fire if you're even going that route.
Don't do that.
Yeah. I would say basically my advice would be like don't do anything that you wouldn't want to do if your wife was there watching you. Like you got to picture like your wife is right there with you, like and
Jesus
God is right there with you at all times. So, and you know, I think that's what makes the New Testament so important is that like everything comes from the heart. Like God's looking at our hearts. Like we may not have committed adultery, we may not have committed fornication, but the moment we think about it, or not just think about it, like entertain those thoughts, like we already fail right there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. Don't put yourself in a situation that you just can't handle. Like you don't put yourself in there. You know, it's not only with, you know, being celibate or staying pure or being in a relationship. It goes all the way to marriage. Don't put yourself in those situations and think about it. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. Would you want your wife to be talking and flirting, you know what I mean, to other guys in her job setting?
Oh, hell no.
Exactly. So put yourself in the shoes and just don't do it. So, you know, that's probably a question. Hopefully that, you know, whoever you are, you can just, I don't know, just respect and honor your wife, respect and honor your husband. So my next question is, My wife has self-confidence issues. How can I help her, and how can she help herself? This is very similar, or very, like, it kind of ties in with us in a sense, because I wouldn't say I have self-confidence issues. I have more anxiety issues, with pressures and stuff like that. So think about that. Like, how can you help me? How have you helped me? And how can I help myself? Obviously. It's kind of weird, but...
Well, I would say that this is a difficult area for me. Like, I would honestly say this is like one of my weaknesses that I do feel conviction to, try to work on and get better with, because one of your top love languages is words of affirmation.
Yes.
And I'm just the total opposite. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I don't speak a lot. It's hard for me to express my feelings.
Yeah.
And, but that's something that I'm working on. And that's something that, if your spouse or, your wife has self-confidence issues, then you have to boost your wife up. Like, that's you. This is your rib. Like, you gotta do everything that you can to show her that she's loved, show her that she's wanted, that you want her. Like, even if you gotta do it in different ways, because sometimes you may tell her she's beautiful every day, but it's like those thoughts will still be in their mind. So it's like, I don't know, try different ways. And as I say this, I'm talking to myself. Like,
yeah,
I need to try different ways to reach her. It's like, it's an ongoing, prize that I'm trying to reach. And that's, to get to you, get to your heart,
That's really good. Cause your top love language is physical touch. And it's very hard for me to give you that love language, because I can do without, because that's not even in my top 2, which is kind of crazy. But it's a matter of sacrificing. It's a matter of decreasing yourself and putting your wife or your husband before you.
Yep.
and doing, or supplying their needs.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I agree. Boost your wife up. Boost her up. And you may not know how, but try with small things. Like, the smallest things makes us the happiest. You don't have to do anything elaborate or crazy, but just start small.
Yeah, and it's so tough because, we're so used to worrying about our needs.
Yep.
My needs. This is what I need. But I think when we begin to forget about your own needs and start thinking about your spouse's needs, and you focus on that, then it begins to rub off each other. And now she's gonna want to do she's gonna want to fill your own needs, and that's how you guys will have your needs filled. And
yeah, that's really good. I agree. All right, next one. My husband is not romantic. How do I deal with this?
I have no answer for this, because that would be me.
That's so funny. Anthony is not romantic. He's not romantic at times. There's, we have... But the crazy thing is that you were really romantic when we were dating.
You sure?
I don't know. Maybe it wasn't, or maybe it just love.
Maybe I tricked you.
Maybe you tricked me. I think you did. But I don't think Anthony has a romantic bone on him, but there's been moments where he's gone the extra mile, and really that has rocked my world, because I remember one time I was dealing with anxiety, and it was a lot, and you brought me flowers and you brought me a card, and I was what the heck, why did you do this? But it's the little simple things that
you know what it is, it's strategic. I gotta set the bar low so that when I do these romantic things, then it's woo,
But what would you tell a husband that's not romantic? How can you encourage them to be romantic to their wife? Because apparently, this question, the wife is suffering because her husband's not romantic.
All right, what I would say is, we may be thinking of our life, our marriage in one way, but our wives may be looking at it their life is a movie. Like, they want...
Yo, he's talking about me, bro.
Their life is like... Sometimes I'll access you. I was like, babe, like, come on. There's the cameras. Like, you know, why are you being dramatic? Like... But sometimes that's how they are. You know, they look at their life as a movie, and they want the happy ending, and they want the prince to come pick them up. So we gotta just, you know, try our best. Good luck, guys.
Okay. Okay. So that was pretty much it with relationships and marriage. Let's get to it, babe. Let's talk about sex.
Oh, man.
I know. This one's a hard one. But let's do it. So, here we go. The first question. And these questions are in regard to marriage. Okay? We are not sex experts, first of all.
Yeah.
And then second of all, we're basing it off of the Word of God. We are not basing it on how we feel or what we know.
Yeah.
We are just basing it biblically. Biblically Christian sex, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then marriage.
In our interpretation.
Exactly. Yeah. For sure. So the first question is, my husband wants to do role play. Is that okay?
That's actually a good question. I don't think we've ever like role played.
No, we
like
haven't
that.
done like a full role playing. Like where I'm dressed up like a something and you're just like something else.
Well, I don't think the dressing up is bad at all. Like, you know, like
it gives it like a little extra spice.
Yeah.
But then
the
again,
role play, like
if you think
when
about
I think of that,
it,
I'm thinking of like you're actually playing the role of someone else.
Exactly.
And when I think of that, that's when I'm like, maybe like it's not good because, you know, like you don't want like your wife having images of her making love or acting in love with someone who's not you.
Exactly.
Like,
and vice versa.
Yeah, maybe if it was like once in the blue, but like I would just assume that it could be something that you start to depend on.
Exactly.
And it's like now if you start depending on and needing that in order to have sex or have that drive, then that's when
you need to get
it's a backlash. Yeah.
I think that's good. I think you took my answer. Next one. Are sex toys like vibrators and dildos okay to use? Okay, to be honest, we don't use that.
Yeah.
We don't use those devices.
Yeah, we don't have that I know of.
Yeah. No. Okay, what do you mean? Are you serious?
I haven't checked your drawers. So I don't
have drawers. I have like literally a cart full of books like that you do not have to worry about me. So really quickly. The Bible states, you know, that God created sex. God did it to unify the male and the female, right? Mm-hmm. So sex is for the following things. Sex is for the bodily unification of a couple. It's also for procreation, and it's also like the heavenly union, representing, you know, the heavenly union. Now, sex toys, they fall into a gray area. And this is for a variety of reasons. It's not another person or an animal, but it's not the anatomical organs. And I'm using big words because I'm quoting off of, and this is according to like christianresearch.com or something like that. But it says it's not the anatomical organs of a married couple. So, with that being said, it is not the organ of a male and it's not the organ of a female. Mm-hmm. So why would you use it? You know what I mean? But then it says regarding it, and I'm reading this straight up from the article. It says, regarding the express purpose of sex, it's not a bodily union. It doesn't aid procreation, therefore doesn't symbolize a heavenly union. It says, but God designed sex to be enjoyed or else he wouldn't have created the orgasm. Not all sex ends in procreation, and even regular sex can fail to symbolize the relationship between Christ and the church if done in the wrong spirit. So you could be doing it right and totally miss the point. So I personally believe that a married man's body and a married woman's body should be the sole focus of sex. I feel, then this is our opinion, that we should not depend on other devices if it's not the organ of the of the husband or the wife. What do you think?
Yeah, like, I mean, if like you need that, then like, hey, just call me.
Exactly.
Wake me up.
You know, it's true. It's so funny, but it's true. Like, if I need it, just let you know. And you let me know. And we do our thing. No. So, I don't think we should use vibrators or dildos because it's not like a real organ. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And then think about the backfire. It could your spouse could be using it all the time without you. You know, and getting pleasure from it. Like I personally feel that you would feel like upset about that. Yeah, and I would too if you were using, but you shouldn't be using because you're male. But I'm just saying, like, for a female to be using that type of stuff, I think it would, you know, if I do it in private without you there or whatnot, it wouldn't be like that. That's where it could backfire. Yeah,
definitely, I agree.
You're so uncomfortable with this question. You haven't said a word.
No, it's just something that we haven't even experienced.
Yeah, we haven't experienced.
I can't even talk much.
I know,
about
it's true.
It. So.
That's why I had to do some research because honestly, but I personally believe you shouldn't have to use them. Okay. The next question. This one is important one. Is anal sex okay?
I guess quick answer, no.
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, like
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was like scientifically meant for something to come out of it. Not go in.
Absolutely. Anal sex is not okay between married couples. The natural organs are the man's organs and the woman's organs, and they are designed for each other, and there is nothing else, no other, thing that should be punctured, No. So anal sex is not okay. God's intent for men and women to marry each other and have normal sexual relationships within the bonds of marriage. That's God's intent. So anal sex is not a normal sexual intercourse. It's not, it's not the norm. It's not biologically, that's not the way it's supposed to happen. Yeah. So it's not safe either, because it can give you health problems too if you are excessive with that. Yeah. Okay. So anal sex don't. Okay. Yep. And we're being like very choppy with these answers because obviously we've never experienced this. Yeah. So that's why. And then the final question is, how can I keep it sexually interesting after 5 or 10 years of marriage?
I would say, like, I know we mentioned, like, the sex toys and devices like that, like, not being good because they come with a lot of risks. But, like, I don't see nothing wrong with, maybe if you're getting a sex game or some sex cards to help spice it up, or, I don't know, maybe change of scenery, like getting a nice hotel, like.
That's really good, actually. I didn't have an answer for that. But it's true. I think like finding some games, maybe, truth or dares, things to kind of spice up and reignite the passion between you guys. Like, make it fun. Try different things, in the bed instead of the standard positions. Try other things that can help you and make you experience. And the reason why I'm staying so general is because obviously our audience, so I don't want to but just try new things in regard to the sex, the normal sex, and go places, change your scenery, because sometimes being at home is like, ugh, you see that bed and you don't want to do anything, you just want to sleep. Yeah. So change up the scenery. I completely agree. And just kind of like look up some games and things and challenge each other and spice it up. So, and we have experience with that because we've done that. Just to kind of keep it spiced up. You know, we're going to be married for 8 years.
Yeah,
8 years. So
2 more, we hit the decade.
Yes. So, you know, we do certain things every now and then to just give it a little spice. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, one of the most important things in any relationship or marriage is honoring. You know, honoring your husband, honoring your wife. One thing I would definitely recommend is, and I know this sounds funny, but learn the love language of your spouse. Learn the love language and sacrifice, put yourself, you know, second, and put your spouse first. And if the love language is affirmation, do everything that you can to fulfill that need. If it's physical touch, like for me, do everything to fulfill that need for them. You know, honor them and honor God too by being holy within the marriage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And by honoring God together, God will take care of the rest.
Yep, exactly.
So, one thing I wanted to talk about really quickly before we end this conversation, babe, is we've been together for 9 years as a couple, and we're about to hit the 8th year of marriage. So, the last and final question for us to finish off this episode is, what do you think has worked for us in regard to building a strong marriage?
I would say, and it's not to sound so spiritual, but number one is, you know, having Jesus, like seeking God, because I would say growing up in church and both of us having the same beliefs, marriage is still hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's hard because, you know, we're so used to, you know, you live so many years just worrying about yourself. And now marriage is almost the opposite, where it's now you got to take care of your significant other and they have to take care of you. And that's what makes it so tough. And being that Jesus is love, God is love, that's why it's so important for him to be in the middle of that marriage, because now is a unity of not of two, but a unity of three. And the unity of three is not easily broken. You know, it's like a strand, 3 strands of rope. You know, you can't break that easily. And the Bible tells us, you know, what love is, and that's, you know, love is patient, love is kind. So, you know, just being in tune with the word, you know, it shows you exactly what love is, and the way that Jesus loved the church, his bride. You know, that's the way we should be loving, you know, our significant others. Something else I would say that has helped us, you know, within these past 8 years has been communication. And it's so funny because, you know, we balance each other out, because you guys know Ceci. Ceci's up front. I'm not much of the talker. Yeah,
for sure.
You know, so Ceci's transparent, you know, so she's going to tell me how she feels. And I have no choice but, you know, to try to express my feelings as well. And
yes.
And that's the only way this is going to work, you know, because, you know, you can't, you know, keep things bottled up, because at one point, you know, it's just going to explode. And, you know, why waste days? Why waste weeks, months, just holding things in, holding grudges in, when you know, you're called to be with this person for the rest of your life. So if you're going through something, you're going through an argument, just put it all out on the table, you know, get it over with that day, that night. Don't go to bed that night, you know, still being in a grudge with, you know, your spouse.
Yeah.
You know, I would say, those are a couple tips, advice I would give.
And everything that you said, I second that, because you took everything that I wanted to say. But yeah, we don't argue much. We bicker a lot. Yeah. You know, we bicker a lot. But we never have major arguments because we communicate. And we communicate before things get out of hand. So I think that that's one of the major things. And also keeping God first. Right now we're in this new season of seeking God. And I think that, you know, God has really revealed himself within our marriage because we have taken the time to be intimate with him. Yeah. You know, so I think that it's very important as a couple that you come to terms and together you guys seek the face of God. And I promise you that once you do that, everything else will be
it changes.
It changes everything.
It's never the same.
You know, the word of God says, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So I know that within your marriage, within your relationship, even if you're single, seek ye first the kingdom of God. If you're waiting for that significant other, if you're waiting for the one that God has in store for you, seek him first.
Yep.
And be complete in him, because that's the thing. You can seek him, but be complete in him. You have to become complete in him in order for God to then give you the gift of having a relationship with someone. So I think that we have covered all areas, babe. We did so good. I'm so happy.
Made it.
Well, there you have it. This one's like, well, this is like a little bit weird. Has been a little weird. It's definitely out of our comfort zones talking about sex and things like that. But I hope that as you listened to this episode, that you were blessed and that you would take on this advice. You know, we're not experts, but you know, we base everything on the Bible, and we hope that you would take this advice and just apply it to your relationships. And just know that we're always here for you, and we'll pray for you. You can always send us an email or send us a shout from Instagram or Facebook, and we can definitely help you or direct you to someone to help you if something is more severe. Remember that marriage therapy is highly recommended in all areas. So if you are struggling in any area, marriage therapy is there, available to you. So make sure that you do your research and find the right people to go to, the right churches to go to. Even if you're single and you feel that, you know, you want to figure yourself out prior to giving yourself to someone else, or whatever the case may be, get therapy. You know, my best friend, she's always recommending therapy, and I completely 100% agree with her. So there you have it, guys. Babe, thank you so much for joining me at the table today. I know today was one of those weird topics.
Took a lot out of me to do this. I just want to say thank you, babe, for having me in this episode. You know, I'm proud of you for what you're doing with, you know, Benevolence. You're on season 3. To all the listeners out there, you know, on behalf of, you know, her husband, I just want to say thank you for your support. You know, showing love to Ceci. Like, Ceci would never ask for this, but I would encourage you guys. Like, if you guys are ever blessed or touched by anything that she speaks or anyone's testimonies, like, feel free to, like, send her a message, just to uplift her, because you have no idea, like, what the enemy goes through just to stop you from giving your testimony, from pouring your oil that God has placed in you. And you need, you know, a people around you, a village around you that's going to help lift you up and encourage you. So do that, you know, if you feel in your heart, you know, to uplift Ceci, you know, whenever you have a chance or a moment. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, babe. I love you.
I love you.
And thank you all for tuning into Benevolence, where kindness matters and all are welcome to the table. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Benevolence Podcast or at I am Ceci Diaz to know a little bit more about me and Benevolence. Benevolence Podcast is available on iTunes, Google Play, and the Stitcher app. And finally, if there's a topic that you would like to discuss in the future, please do not hesitate to email me at benevolencepodcast@gmail.com with requests, petitions, or comments. I want to hear from you. And stay tuned for next Monday's episode of Benevolence. You don't want to miss it. Bye.
Bye.